All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2026. Welcome, everyone, to the Let's Talk Civilly podcast. My name is Gabby Cortez. I'm with the Education and Outreach Department at Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. I will be one of your main hosts for this podcast. I'll be popping up on your feeds a lot more for the 2026 year. I will let my other hosts introduce themselves as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabby. Hey, y'all. My name is Marquita Surrett. I am one of the co hosts for our Let's Talk Civilly podcast. I'm also one of the Education and Outreach Associates for the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. Cleveland?
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk Civilly podcast. I am Cleveland Horton II, and I do serve as the Executive Director for the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. Looking forward to some thought-provoking, information-packed sessions through this podcast. But again, welcome everybody.
Yes. Woo woo. We got the executive director in the house. We've
Yeah.
definitely wanted to do this podcast for a long time. So I'm glad that we're finally here. We got it going. And this is going to be our first episode for our podcast. So,
Woo-hoo.
with that being said, this is being filmed in January, right around MLK Day. So, for this first episode, we kind of just wanted to share some highlights on MLK Day, just, talking about it. Our executive director also just received an award. So, we'll get into that
Whoop, whoop.
and just kind of getting again just addressing the agency a little bit more to give you guys some information on how to be able to contact us and going forward. So with that, for MLK Day, for this podcast, like I said, we wanted to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a reminder that courage, compassion, and the pursuit of justice never go out of style. MLK Day is more than a day off for our agency at MCCR. It's a month where we reflect, act, and lift each other higher.
I love that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I really do. And I feel like we all embody that.
for sure.
Everybody. Yep.
Marquita?
Yeah. So like Gabby just mentioned, we have someone to celebrate in the house, don't we?
Mhm.
We're beyond proud to announce that our executive director, Cleveland Horton, received an award this past weekend at the 38th Annual Dr. MLK Award Dinner. Cleveland, do you want to tell the folks a little bit about what the award was, how you were selected?
Absolutely. So thanks, Marquita. It's always a great opportunity to start out the podcast by celebrating myself, right? And and I say that as humbly as possible. But no, in all seriousness, I was truly deeply honored to receive the 2026 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dreamkeeper Award, which is presented by the chair of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award Committee. And we think about this award. This award truly does kind of represent individuals or groups who are kind of going above and beyond to make sure that we are doing our part to advance civil liberties and civil rights. So I am truly honored to anytime your name is associated with Dr. King, it is always going to be an honor. But for me, when I think about this recognition, it's really not about me, right? For me, this recognition is really about the responsibility that we all share to continue to make sure we are improving and progressing civil rights. We find ourselves right now in this uncertain time, this divisive time, with a lot of rhetoric that we see, whether it's on the news, whether it's on other podcasts, whether it's on the radio. And for me to be honored in a way that really symbolizes the legacy of Dr. King is a calling, but more importantly, a responsibility to make sure that I continue to do my part to uphold and improve civil rights throughout our entire great state.
Well, that was a great answer.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, put him back
Clear.
on the stage. Give this man a mic.
Exactly. Well, with that being said, I know you kind of already touched into it, but what does Dr. King's legacy mean to you?
Mm, that's a great question. Anytime when people ask you about Dr. King's legacy, I get nervous, right? Because it's like say the wrong thing and then people are going to be after you, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful when you talk
Especially now on the
about.
podcast.
Yes, yes,
On Instagram, things
absolutely.
like
So when you think about Dr. King's legacy, for me, Dr. King taught me that it's more important. It's important that your efforts are more than just words, right? It's about your actions. It's about sacrifice, persistence, and really just the power of collective action, right?
Right.
When we think
Right.
about, again, where we are now, we think about so many different things are happening within so many different communities, right? Whether it's the ICE incidents, whether it is the fact that so many of our communities are divided, right? We're no longer listening to each other,
Yeah.
right? We are solely focused on attacking each other. That it's important that we not sit in our offices with our great titles and talk about the work that we do. It's important that we embed ourselves in the community and that folks see action, right?
Yeah.
And I think that for me, part of what we've done at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights since my appointment, if we really think about it, is the fact that we've issued more commission-initiated complaints since my appointment than we've done in the last 5 or 10 years combined.
For
right?
sure.
We most recently were able to retrieve the highest monetary benefits for victims of unlawful discrimination in the history of our agency, right? So for me, that's Dr. King's legacy, right? It's putting the action behind what we talk about.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people, it always when the executive director is in the room, it's like, let's ask the executive director all the questions, right? But I also think it's important that folks hear, what Dr. King's legacy means to you all as well. So I am going to pass the same question over to you, Marquita, who is one of the newest members to our MCCR family. And I'm going to ask you, what does Dr. King's legacy mean to you?
Well, you got me nervous to answer.
Too nervous.
No pressure.
Right.
No
just
pressure.
A little
No
nervous,
pressure.
and also leading up to you, the executive director. But Dr. King's legacy, I mean, to me, it's simple, but also yet not simple because it's a very important mission and action.
Right.
But simply and powerful that we all serve a fair shake, right? And we can achieve that through steady, peaceful effort. I know being raised by a single mom, she instilled in us just the main principles of what it means to build community around you and how effective that can be for longevity, and for you to see results of peaceful action and coming together and love and peace and kindness. So yeah, I mean, like shout out to mom, right? Because but she was definitely the type of person to always tell us, like, no matter the skin tone, no matter the way someone speaks, no matter the way they walk into the room and show up, you show love and kindness no matter what. And I think Dr. King's legacy, and it reflects so heavily with what we're going through in today's climate of appreciating one another's differences, but also seeking to understand one another.
I love
is
that.
extremely important. And I think we do a really good job with that when we're out there doing our training sessions, right? Like I was just out at Anne Arundel County last week doing conflict resolution and getting people to understand that seeking to understand one another doesn't mean that you are now jumping ship on what you believe in to believe in what someone else believes in, but you're appreciating the differences that you have amongst each of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow. Are you scared to follow up me, Gabby? Because it's back to you now.
Well, funny enough, I feel like that end piece definitely kind of goes more with my answer in response to Dr. King's legacy to me. I think for sure, with Dr. King's legacy, it's a reminder that progress isn't automatic. It's intentional. And with that, like, I think I'm so big on telling people that they should always be unapologetically yourself. Because we're going to have to make room for people. That's just what it's going to be. I think it's funny shouting out to our parents. I would definitely say my stepmother had such a big impact, I think, on me in getting patience for other people. And like just being able, I think, with the new term of neurodivergent and being, like a lot of people, being different, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but it's just who they are. And I feel like we need to make more room for people to be themselves.
Oh, I like that.
And I think, and even it's one of those things where like, yeah, it's the small things, and we're not might be talking about racism or like just judging someone off of their skin tone, but sometimes. And I know it's a hard thing. I always think about it. But like, all right, growing up, I'm sure for all three of us, we grew up when you come in the room, you address somebody. If someone talks to you, you always say good morning. Like, it's very important. And I definitely agree with that. But I think as I'm growing, I see a lot of other generations who just, they're not comfortable with that. And I know where we could see it as disrespectful. But so you got to like sit back and think like, okay, maybe it's not the disrespectful thing. But like maybe, the way their moms taught them was if you feel comfortable, you go ahead and address somebody, or you say good morning, but you don't have to. And I know that's a hard, touchy subject, but I will say
it is.
right. I was gonna say, especially like, yeah,
especially with just, I mean, y'all know I'm half Syrian and half Dominican, and I feel like both cultures, top priority, right?
Yes.
Respect and walking into the room and doing the double kiss and the hugs and all the
Yes,
things. So very controversial debate.
for sure.
Gabby, I don't think you want to go there.
No, I know it is. It is
That's
controversial.
that's a whole separate podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things where I think it leads into my conversation for sure about like being able to just accept somebody for that. Luckily, if they don't want to say good morning, well, that, that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Just, they're not comfortable with that. But definitely, it is a touchy subject for sure. I know, honestly. Well, I loved hearing everyone's responses to that question. It was definitely great. I didn't think it was too bad. I think we had great answers. But let's go ahead and tell our viewers how everyone got to the agency, especially with Marquita being the newbie.
All right.
I think
I'm tired of y'all calling me out for being a newbie.
we got to talk about it, see how we got to MCCR.
Yeah, we gotta figure out how long you get to carry the newbie
Title.
designation.
Maybe
So,
after probation?
I don't
That's
know.
true.
We'll
What's
figure
that,
it
the
out.
90 days, I think?
I have no idea.
We'll figure it out.
I'm just doing my job. Just doing my job.
Marquita, you want to tell us how you got here?
Okay, I can, yeah, sure. Y'all want to know like full background or just,
Lay it all out.
Yeah.
lay it all out?
Impress the listeners.
You know what? Why not? Okay, so yeah, just where do I start? Born and raised in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
Allentown. Let me put us on the map real quick. Allentown, Pennsylvania. Went to college at Coastal Carolina University.
I like Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, loved
fan.
Coastal. Big fan as well.
Shout out
Um,
to Isaiah Likely on the Ravens.
Oh yeah, shout out Isaiah. He was going to school there while I worked there,
Oh, nice.
which is part of my experience. So let me get there.
Hold up before you, but Ravens fan, right? Not a Steelers fan.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh, right. I do remember
Cut the
that.
podcast. Cut the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Majority of my family are Cowboys fans.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Again, putting my family on the map again. I'm just, loving my family tonight. So I went to Coastal. I graduated in 2018. Ended up going to Oklahoma State University for a little bit.
Right. Remember that?
Yep, I did about like 2 semesters of grad school there until I could not take Oklahoma anymore.
Okay.
Heard things about Oklahoma.
Right. I was a graduate assistant for fraternity and sorority life there.
Mhm.
So I was over the NPHC and MGC councils, which is your multicultural Greek, and your National Panhellenic, which is your historically African American or Black founded fraternities and sororities. And then after that, I was like, I don't want to do this. So I went back to Pennsylvania, and then I went back to South Carolina. I worked at Coastal Carolina University. I went from admissions to the Multicultural Center there, which they call the IS office.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it was cute. Intercultural and Inclusion Student Services. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting that correct.
Okay.
Nobody come for me if I got it wrong in the comments.
The is,
Um,
but that's what.
Yeah, the IS office. It just, yeah, I feel like it's been so long. And I was overseeing their trainings along with their mentoring program for our underrepresented student population, which was my heart and soul. Oh, I love that program so much. But I outgrew Coastal and I outgrew South Carolina, so it was time to move. I remember having this conversation when I was interviewing to get to Maryland. I ended up coming here for Johns Hopkins University.
Okay.
But I remember saying in the interview why I wanted to be in Maryland specifically. And Governor Westmore said it at his keynote on Friday. Thank God I live in Maryland, right? And I just kept thinking that when I was thinking of what state do I want to move to next. And I was like, Maryland.
Yeah.
Maryland. I mean, why not? But it's also extremely close to Pennsylvania. So that was the biggest indicator of why I moved
How
here.
far is it a drive from here to like Allentown?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
That's not bad.
It's
Not bad.
not. Not at all. It's not scenic. It's not a fun route. But I love it. So I moved here for that. And then after Hopkins, I made my way to y'all. At Hopkins, I was doing education and outreach very similar to what I'm doing now, but within the Hopkins community. So I was educating the faculty and staff on different diversity, equity, and inclusion topics. And when that didn't quite work out anymore, I found myself back on the job market. And we all know the job market is tough right now.
Right.
Oh,
That's
my
one way to
goodness.
put it. That's one way to put it.
It is. It is hard.
Mm.
And I kept getting the question of, what do you want to do next? And I was like, what do you mean? I want to do that. Like, I want to do what I've been doing. I want to reach the community that I know that needs it the most. I want to reach the majority community that I know that needs the education the most, right? Like, I want to support, but I want to educate. And how can I do both of those with leaving diversity, equity, and inclusion? So I told everyone I'm just going to hustle through. I'm going to continue to look for the jobs that align with my goals and my values.
Mm.
And I found myself at the agency.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
So that means
Cleveland
you were
hired me.
that means you were so talented that you beat out all the other people vying for the same position. Kudos to you.
Thank you for
Kudos to
hiring
you.
me
Kudos to you.
again.
Right. And when did you started it in December?
I started December 10th
December.
to be
December 10th,
exact.
yep.
Yep. Never will forget it. I thank God every day, and this is no joke. I thank God every day that this job came at the most perfect time.
Welcome to the family.
Thank you.
Welcome
I
to the
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cleveland, how'd you get here?
Uh,
I've never heard this story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
well,
sat in my interview, so he knew me.
So
I've heard this story a few
it's
times.
funny because sitting on this podcast with two remarkable individuals, and I'm twice their age. My story is twice as long, right? So I will make sure that I definitely trim it down. But you know, I'm born and raised here in Baltimore, right? As many folks will say, they can tell by my twos and my do's,
For
right?
sure. The
Yeah.
S and the X.
And I'm proud of it. So Baltimore all day. So for me, I attended Lake Clifton Eastern High School. After I graduated, I went away to Frostburg State University. I spent one semester there. I spent more time trying to play basketball than I did going to class, right? To be honest, so I left Frostburg with a .68 GPA. Right now, you know that typically there's a number that's supposed to be before the decimal point,
Yeah,
right?
I worked with college students.
Exactly.
I know.
.68 GPA. So my father, who at that time was funding my tuition, was like, you know, I think something's wrong with your grades. I was like, well, what had happened was, right? So at that point, my father was like, hey, that's it. You got one semester on my dime, right? The rest is on you. So obviously I came home after my first semester at Frostburg State University. I tell everybody I kind of went on like this world tour, right, of colleges and universities within the state, right? And that was because really at that point in time, college wasn't for me. I was just doing it because everybody said that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So I would apply, get admitted, take out my financial aid, drop my classes and move on, right? Get my refund, right?
I remember
Pretend like I was balling out, right?
Yep.
with my refund, right? Stacking up, obviously, school loans. So eventually, I landed a job at Procter and Gamble, making cosmetics. And I used to always be like, well, golly, I'm on the warehouse floor. There are other people, same age as me, get to dress nice. They're up on the upper floors, right? What did they do differently that I didn't do?
Yeah.
Right? Well, they finished school, right? So I decided at that point it was time for me to go back to school. So I went back to the Community College of Baltimore County. I got my associate's degree in marketing. And then I transferred over to the University of Baltimore, where I got my bachelor's and my graduate degree in human resource management, right? So while doing so, to be honest, I got terminated from Procter and Gamble Cosmetics, right? Because I wanted to be the cool person, right? Wearing a Timbs when you're supposed to be wearing steel-toe shoes, right? So one day there was like this random safety check where if they were coming around stepping on people's shoes and make sure you had your steel-toe shoes on. Well, I had my Timbs on, so you stepped on my foot, boot gave in, I ended up getting terminated, right? So
Oh wow, you were a rebel.
I was, right? So I always say that. So when I see rebels, I can spot rebels out a mile away because I used to be a rebel, right? So needless to say, I lost my job at Procter & Gamble Cosmetics. From there, I ended up going over to Enterprise, right? So I was at Enterprise for a while, working with Enterprise, doing my thing. And there was a young lady that came in through Enterprise who was working for a labor relations company. And she was like, hey, I think, you have a great way with people. I think you'd be good at doing this labor relations job. Had no idea what labor relations was, right? I just knew it was going to get me away from washing cars and renting cars to people,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, all right, well, if it gets me away from having to wash cars and a shirt and tie, sign me up,
Right.
right? So I applied for that job. So that's kind of when I got my first taste of labor relations, right? How to defend folks, especially state employees, because it was Maryland Classified Employees Association, and their primary objective was to represent state employees, a labor union. Um, so that's where I got my first taste of that. From there, I was introduced to the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. At that time, they had a mediation program. So I would come in as a union specialist, right, representing employees. They told me they had an entry-level job. I was like, hey, all right, let's try it out, right? I don't come from this long lineage of civil rights activists, right? I was just a young man looking for better opportunities, looking for a better way for, at that point in time, take care of my child, my only son, right? I landed here at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights as an entry-level investigator, right? I mean base level, right? I mean, I was at the bottom, right? At that point in time, I always tell folks, right, because I think our starting salary now is probably somewhere around 70,000 entry level. I was making about 29 entry level, right?
That reminds me of higher education.
So it's always funny now, right? When I hear people talk about salary, I'm looking at how far we've come, right? The fact that I remember again coming in and I was making about 29,000 as an entry level investigator, right? So I've had the opportunity over my 18, 19 year tenure here at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights to really do a little bit of everything. I think the only department I haven't been in is a legal department because obviously I'm not a bar attorney, so I haven't been able to do that. But I've done a little bit of intake, obviously investigations. I've helped out from an E&O standpoint, right? So I know where all the bones are buried, right? So I always tell people, like, I started at the bottom, and now literally I'm here, right? So it's amazing for me to have started as an entry-level investigator and now find myself in the position of leading the agency, right? But they always say, right, if you find something that you truly love, you never work a day in your life, right? And that's why as much grief as I get in the agency about being in the office every day, right?
Yeah.
It's because I love what I do, right?
But you also need rest.
That's true.
We want to tell all the people out there that working 100 hours a week is not okay. Okay?
It's not.
They need their rest.
I'm a recovering workaholic, right? So I'm working on that. I'm work in progress. But again, having the ability now for me to see not just where we were, but where we are, but also crafting the vision for where we're going, seeing the fact that we have so many younger generations in the workplace right now, right? When I walk down our hallways and every office looks different because most of the people are different, right? To being able to see the next generation that at some point I'm going to be able to pass the baton to is exciting, right? So that's kind of my story, how I got here. And again, for me, it's a privilege to lead an agency full of people that are committed to impacting the lives of the citizens of our great state. I don't take it lightly. Yeah.
Wow. What a long story.
You got some journeys.
Yeah. I didn't hear that whole other part. I just heard certain stories of how you got to the agency, but didn't hear that one before. That was a new story.
Yeah.
I've been around for a while, so I got,
Yeah. When's your 20th? When's your year 20?
next year.
Next year?
Ooh.
Wow.
Remember when
Oh,
you
then that's
said-
and that's our 100 year for our agency too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Remember when you said you were making $29K?
Yep.
That was 20 years ago?
Yep.
Milk was what, like 10 cents?
No.
No.
No, I'm kidding. I'm messing with
Oh,
you.
I was like, no. I really was for a second. I was like,
I know you were trying to calculate over there. I saw your brain moving. You were like, what?
Yeah, I was like, it's not that long ago. Am I tripping?
20 years? Is,
Long
So
time.
2007.
Long time.
Oh, dang, what was I? What was going on in 2007?
We just learned how to walk, probably.
No.
No,
I'm
I
not
was-
that young.
Right, I was elementary school still. I was elementary school still.
Okay.
I want to say in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I was just thinking about the time period around that time.
Oh, yeah.
Or who our president was, with the
Oh, the climate. of
climate.
country.
That's what I was just thinking about in 2007. I think weren't we going into a recession, like, or one of our recessions?
This was 2007 was probably right before we had that major housing bust.
Right, in 2008, right?
Okay.
2008, right?
Okay,
Okay.
I remember that.
But I think when we take a look at where we are now, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that we were definitely nowhere near where we are now. Um, I think we are at a pivotal moment in our history, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because at some point in time, so think about it, we're thinking about what was happening in 2007, right?
Mhm.
At some point, folks will be looking back saying, well, what was happening in 2025 and 2026,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And my goal when we think about as the executive director at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights is to ensure that we're on the right side of that conversation, right?
Right.
That folks will look back and say, oh, well, I remember, Gabby, education outreach specialist with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights was out in the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating awareness, right? Doing a whole host of things. Marquita was doing this, and that's our goal, right? When we think about how we lead, and how we leave a lasting impact on our communities, it's realizing that this is our moment,
Mhm.
right? That we are writing history.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, like we're trying to figure out what's happening, think back to 2007,
Mm-hmm.
folks will be thinking back to this moment because
Right.
this moment, for whatever reason, good or bad, good and bad, let me just say that, will be in the history books.
It will.
And it's
It will.
all of our jobs to make sure that as the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, folks know that we stood in the gap.
Mhm.
We did what we were supposed to do, right? We ensured that everybody's rights were protected, right? And we were embedded in the community.
That needs to be a tagline.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. That's why when we think about our priority, right? I know me and Gabby have talked about this all the time. Our priority is to make the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights a household name,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right? And the only way that we do that is by getting out of our offices, right?
Mhm.
Being in the community, right? Using the platforms like this podcast to educate and make people more aware of what their rights are,
Mhm.
right? And we are going to do it. It's a tall task, but I'm confident that we have the talent in our agency to make our name a household name.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Gabby, how did you get to the agency?
You know what's
I've
funny?
never heard this story.
Well, what's funny is hearing Cleveland's story, I was like, oh my gosh, we had so much in common, low key. I didn't know how much we had in common. Okay, so I can't say I was born in Baltimore, but I say Baltimore raised me for sure. Where was I born? DC, I think, Georgetown, one of those. And yeah, my family did move around the DMV area.
I'm gonna need you to be a little bit more confident with where you were born.
Right.
I want to say
What's
Georgetown.
What's on your birth certificate?
Georgetown Hospital. But then I always got confused. I was like, that's DC, right? So I mean, but Georgetown sometimes they like to separate from like DC. I don't know, but
don't
Georgetown
think
Hospital.
Is Georgetown in DC?
You see.
Viewers,
Right.
please fact check us and put that in the comments. Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I do apologize if I'm also, coming at DC or Georgetown, but I know for sure Georgetown Hospital. I do know that one. My mom's very proud of that one. And then so moved around, but I don't know how long I've been in Baltimore. Literally since I was a little girl. And lived here, went to Pikesville High, which is also in the county. And then, funny enough, I went to University of Alabama, Roll Tide, for a semester, but also was like Cleveland, where I was like, school is just not for me. And I think it was such a culture shock, too. I really wasn't ready for that. I thought that I wanted to be out of Baltimore and Maryland, and then I was like, never mind. I actually love Maryland. So I came back to Maryland, but I lived in Montgomery County. Because my parents, they dipped out on me. They went to Florida. As soon as I graduated high school, they were gone. And then I moved in with my father and my stepmother in Montgomery County. And I was there for a few years. And funny enough as well, with like Cleveland, where I was like kind of going to school, but really wasn't. I remember taking a semester off because I was like, oh, I think I want to try other things. And then I was like, oh no, my lifestyle, I can't afford not to go to school. Like I need to get a degree. And so I got my degree in general studies first, actually, at Montgomery Community College. Graduated there with my associates, and then transferred to University of Maryland, College Park, and I got my degree in communication.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it's so funny because sometimes I'm like, it was kind of lucky for me because when I got to UMD, it was around 2019, and then COVID hit, and then it was like we did classes virtually,
Wow.
basically. Like, I want to say I only had one semester that I was in person, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, I had my fall semester of 2019 in person, and then I had like not even no probably like 2-3 weeks not even of
Yeah.
2020 spring semester,
Mhm.
and then virtual all the whole rest of till I graduated in 2021.
I'm so grateful that I got both of my degrees before COVID.
For him, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the only reason why I say I was kind of lucky is because so I lived in Gaithersburg area and I had to go to College Park. And I don't know, for the people who live around the Montgomery County area, PG County area, is like traffic is way different. And I hate traffic. I
Fair.
have really bad road rage.
So I'm going to clarify something real quick because I don't want the Prince George's folks coming for you in the comments, right? So we're going to say Prince George's, not PG County,
Oh.
because we know that there's been some conversations around, do folks say Prince George's County
or
PG County?
So I'll say the full name, the Prince George's
Okay.
County. Yeah, we got to put some respect on these
Yeah.
counties'
Put
names.
some respect on that.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So
Thank you for educating me.
yeah, so I went for that traffic there. So I would always take like the toll highway. I would take 200, and those rack up after a while. So, but then boom, I was virtual, so then I didn't have to go to College Park as much.
Nice.
So I graduated, and then funny enough, I think the job market was also just not great because boom, I'm like coming right out of COVID time. So it was hard to get a job, and I had always done like other customer service jobs. I worked my first job was Chipotle, and then I worked at Floyd's 99 Barbershop. Actually, just thinking, those are like my two big jobs, I'd say. I worked at another little small Mexican restaurant in Baltimore in the county. It was called Mezcal. It was on Reisterstown Road. And I worked there for a little bit too. But I worked those jobs. I love talking to people. I love talking to people. So I think that was like another thing where I was like, oh, communication, because I just love talking. And then, so fast forward to got my degree, but then it just took forever for me to get a job. I was just getting rejected. And then my mom and I sat down and we were looking at state jobs. That was like my first time actually looking into getting like government jobs, and didn't really like look that way. And I applied to Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. I want to say 2022. I want to say like November of 2022. Got a call back for my interview in December of 2022. Came in and I got interviewed by the supervisors there. And I like to say a little bit with like a little bit of my, with my chest out, that like I actually got hired after my first interview. Sometimes there's like a second interview, but I didn't have to do that. I got a Wilda, who's the intake supervisor, who I was gonna work under. We just hit it off great. So she had a conversation with Cleveland from what I understood, and boom, like I was there. So I started January 11th, 2023. And I was hired as the secretary for the intake department. And then from there, I was on that position for about 6 months, I think, and then got promoted to Civil Rights Officer 1 in the intake department. And I was there working, and I got to another level. And then I was with intake for most of my time with MCCR. And then I got to the Education and Outreach Unit October of 2025.
Yeah.
So I'm low-key a newbie too for the E&O department, but definitely know my stuff when it comes to intake. So, and MCCR.
I just want to put it on the record, Marquita. You heard her when she was giving her story that we were more alike than
She
different.
did say that.
So I want to make sure that, because it's on the record now, she can't take it back, and all the listeners have had the opportunity to hear it as well. So I just want to make sure we plug that in. Right.
Our stories are more alike.
Hashtag our stories are more alike.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't know about us being so similar, but our stories are very similar. I did not know a lot of this history behind the college life, but it is funny to hear, because I was like, yeah, I wasn't into college either. I thought the same thing. I was like, college life isn't for me. And then I was like, oof, I took a semester off, and I was like, oh, these bills like,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. I was like, there's so many things I think I was thinking about doing makeup, but then I wasn't good about charging people. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a good business person, I'd say. That's not my strong suit, really.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, it led you to us, and
Yes.
we're grateful for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
here with MCCR for a while now since
Yep.
yeah, I just actually had my 3 year, probably like what, like last week or 2 weeks ago on the 11th.
hmm
So 3 years officially.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Cleveland, as the executive director of MCCR, I can't think of anyone else better out of the three of us to tell the viewers a little bit more about our agency, what we do, the vision, the bright light.
That's a great question. Although I think that you two could do a great job at it too. Uh, I'll go with I'll take a stab at it. So our agency has been around here now almost 100 years, right? We will hit our 100 year mark in 27. So we've been around since 1927,
Wow.
right? In one iteration or another. When folks hear that, you think of it as such a long time, right? But I tell folks, the vision for our agency has always been the same, right? And that's really to have a state that's free from any unlawful discrimination, right?
Yeah.
So our job, our most important job, and I tell people this all the time, and sometimes folks look at us as investigators primarily, right? But for me, the most important work that we do falls within our education outreach unit, right? And I'm not saying that just because I got two education outreach people sitting here,
I was
right?
gonna say you're just
But
trying to be nice to
but I'm
us.
saying that because when we think about what we do, so we have a proactive arm and we have a reactive arm, right? So our education outreach unit falls kind of like in our proactive space, right? And the reason why I say that's important is because if folks don't know who you are, what you do, and how you can be of service to them, right? Our reactive arm doesn't exist,
Right.
right? So for me, it's important when we think about all the work that you all put in reference to the trainings, the seminars, the events. I do believe that that is the most critical arm to our agency, especially in this time, right? So we also, when we think about the other reactive arms, right? So our case processing unit, which covers our intake and investigative units, right? They're responsible for taking in all the complaints that come in. So obviously we investigate complaints in the areas of employment, housing, public accommodations, state contracts, commercial leasing, and the provision of health services,
hmm
right? Um, and I think our intake and investigative folks truly do a great job of kind of mining through all of the hundreds and thousands of inquiries that come through our agency and that are processed on a daily basis,
Yeah,
right?
I would
Um,
agree.
that is really kind of I think folks look at us, as the last resort, right? I'm going through this difficult time. I need help, right?
hmm
And they're filing complaints with our agency. That's why it's important for us when we think about our intake and investigative units that we have some of the most talented, experienced individuals, right? That can talk to you about what your rights are,
hmm
talk to you about whether it is truly discrimination or not.
hmm
Because everything that happens to folks isn't discrimination, right?
Correct.
And that's a hard conversation too, right? Because we know that there are a lot of unfair things that happen to individuals, but it's not always discrimination,
hmm
right? But our intake and our investigative units do a great job of kind of weeding and helping folks through that process so that folks are not just the complaints are not just resolved, but folks are also educated in the process,
hmm
right? We think about our other reactive arm, which is our legal unit, which is headed by our general counsel. That's the legal arm that represents the agency, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say that again. That's the legal arm that represents the agency, not the public, right? Because we get a lot of people that will call us and say, "Hey,
I need a
hmm
lawyer.
I need a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Can you transfer me over to your legal department right now?" Our lawyers don't represent members of the public. They represent us as an agency.
hmm
They represent state law, right? But they do a great job of making sure that once we pass the baton to them that says, "Hey, we've completed the investigation. We believe that discrimination occurred." They do a great job of litigating that case forward, right? To
hmm
make sure that we are bringing some relief and making the complainant whole in reference to what happened,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Mhm.
I also think more internally, right, about our admin unit, right, which is responsible for making sure that staff has what we need to do what we do, right?
hmm
Our resources, our supplies, making sure that we're able to hire talented people, right? Marquita, you mentioned how tough this job market is,
Yeah.
right? But it's also tough for employers, right? Because you find a talented person, you got to be able to move quickly
hmm
or you'll lose them to somebody else, right?
Right.
So our admin team makes sure that we move through the process as quickly and as swiftly as possible to make sure when we find talent, we're able to get that talent and retain that talent, right?
hmm
So our admin team is very critical to what we do as well,
Yeah.
right? So when we think about all those different units and what they do, we all make up what we call our family, right? Even though I say our education outreach team is, for me, the most critical element to what we do right now, we all are critical to the mission of the Maryland Commission on Civil
Yeah.
Rights, right? Our job is to stand in the gap, as I mentioned earlier. Our job is to speak up for those who don't have a voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though when we think about our enforcement areas, we only have 6 primary enforcement areas, but our voice goes well beyond that, right? As many folks will notice, we issue a number of different press releases to make sure that we aren't just using our enforcement authority, but more importantly, we're using our voice to talk about issues, right? Whether it's the ICE issues, right? Whether it's voting rights, right? And how folks are trying to diminish voting rights across our nation, right? Our job is not just to speak up on issues that are happening here within our state, but to also be seen on a national level,
Yeah.
right? Because we want to set the example of what civil rights enforcement in 2026 looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time that civil rights enforcement of 1980 is not civil rights enforcement in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that, oh, we're so much better, right? It just means that we are stepping up to the challenge and we recognize that civil rights enforcement has to be different because discrimination is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are no longer signs in most cases that says you can't eat here or you can't come in through this door, right? Or we're not hiring you because you're a female,
Yeah.
right? But we still know that behind the scenes, discrimination is happening. And it's our job when we think about what we do at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights to make sure folks understand, not on our watch,
Yeah.
right? That we're not going to stand by and allow these things to happen to individuals, regardless of what you look like, regardless of who you love, regardless of where you live, right? Regardless of where you play. We're going to make sure that you're protected no matter what.
Yeah.
And all of our departments through our agency play a fundamental, critical role in us being able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of who we are as an agency.
I love it. I love the part, and I was going to say it when you said it doesn't, we don't look the same as we did in the 1980s
Mm.
because the times are different. The
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
need is different.
Yep.
Our community needs something different. And if we weren't able to adapt and change and grow to be who we are today to serve them, there would be no improvement in our agency, right? So I love that part when you said that.
Yep. And I think it's important for me, right? And I touch on this a lot. It's important for me to have people like the Marquitas and the Gabbies, right? That's the next generation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is in part why we're doing this podcast, right? Because we've got to figure out, because for me, when you think about the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights and just civil rights in general, the further removed we are from the civil rights movement,
Mm.
right, the less people make the connection to why our agency exists,
Yeah.
right? And we've got to be very intentional around what are the actions that we're taking as an agency to connect to the other generations, right? To make sure that we continue to pass this baton, but that we continue to pass the history, the
Mm.
lessons, right? So that this fight for civil rights doesn't just stop with one generation,
Right.
that it continues from generation to generation to generation. So that's why I'm excited to have you two as part of our family of the commission, because you all are part of that next generation.
Yeah. I was just reading a report. Like you said, 100 years is coming up next year, and E&O is just prepping all of our archives and, what we're going to be planning for next year. And I was reading a report back in 1966 on the desegregation of schools
Yep.
in Maryland.
Mm.
Yep.
And I was just thinking to myself how important it is for us, our generation, to do our research and to know our history,
Mm.
because even though we're in a new and we're growing and our community needs something different, we can't neglect the past and what has happened then
Yep.
and how things were resolved then,
Yep.
because they like to say the past sometimes repeats itself.
Yep.
So how are we equipping our generation to do so?
Right. I was just thinking, going off of this conversation, putting a pause and putting our promotion piece in here to tell viewers about our website and how they can file.
Yeah.
Kind of going over it, I'll do my little tidbit that I used to say when I was at the front desk. And of course, Cleveland and/or Marquita can jump in if need further explanation. But for our viewers, you can file a complaint with our agency. You can go on our website at mccr.maryland.gov. Maryland is spelled out MCCR is M as in Mary, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie, R as in Robert, .maryland.gov. And on there, you can go on our website, and there's a red box that says file a complaint. And when you get to press that, then that's when you start your inquiry. And the inquiry is more of information on the complainant, so yourselves, if you're filing a complaint, then kind of picking what discrimination complaint you want to go with, if it's employment, housing, health services, commercial leasing, state contracts, and public accommodation. I don't know if I'm missing one, but
Got them all.
yes,
Got 'em.
perfect. Awesome. And then I think my biggest piece that I like to say to people is, and again, if Cleveland wants to correct me, definitely do so. But for us, with discrimination, we do discrimination based off a protected class. So it has to be based off of your race, your age, your color, disability, for housing, source of income, familial status, marital status. Am I missing one?
Got a-
Genetic information.
Got a whole host of them.
We do.
Say,
We do have a
our
whole host.
website?
Go to our
Yes,
website.
go to our website and check it out for sure. Try to get the big ones in my head, but yes. So basically, selecting that as your bases and kind of giving us a little bit more information on what the situation is. So if it's employment, who your employer is, how long you've been there, supervisor, getting some information for us to go forward. If it's housing, address, the situation, what was going on, if they've denied you, access to or denied you rent, or if they are ending your lease, things like that. Those are things that we look into. For public accommodation, I like to say the big one is that denial of service or denial of reasonable accommodation. So if you've been at a restaurant and they denied you service and you think it was because of your race, or disability, if they, you went to a restaurant and they denied your reasonable accommodation for your disability, those are also things that our agency looks into. Those are the type of complaints that we take. So you can go to our website. You can also give us a call at 410-767-8600, where if you aren't comfortable with a computer, we can definitely mail out a inquiry form to you. We do not take complaints over the phone. However, we do try to accommodate that if you don't have access to a computer or if you're not comfortable with a computer inquiry, you can definitely just give us a call and we will mail out an inquiry to you. And it'll come with a return postage that you can just send it back, so you don't have to pay for postage. Or you can come to 6 St. Paul Street and fill out an inquiry form there. Our intake department does let people in, so that you can fill out a complaint if you have questions about the complaint form or need any type of guidance or assistance with it. So, yeah.
I'm going to take a pause. This is our pause, just real quick. Let's scoot all the way down to, we only have about like 10 to 12 minutes. Yeah, 12 minutes.
Do you want to
So let's
cut
just-
the agency, the
sister agencies, since
Okay.
we're going to do a podcast on that anyways.
Okay, perfect.
And let's just do,
So Cleveland will start off with one of the agency's top priorities.
been up to in the community. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, cool.
We're gonna do what? Which one?
One of the agency's top priorities is to be a household name. Gabby and Marquita, what has been up to in the community?
Okay.
And kind of giving us that, yeah. Oops, sorry. All right, cool. All right, go ahead, Cleveland.
So I know earlier I talked about one of our agency top priorities being the fact that our goal is to be a household name, right?
Yeah.
So I would like for you all, Gabby and Marquita, to really talk about what E&O has been up to in the community and how are you all ensuring that we're able to accomplish that top priority of being a household name as we continue to move forward.
Perfect. So I'll start, Marquita,
Yeah,
and then you can
perfect.
fill in. So definitely our first big one that we're doing here is the podcast, Let's Talk Civilly. It has been definitely something on the boards for a while. So glad that we're actually getting that there. We're definitely planning on using this platform to be able to connect with the community. We definitely want to engage with the community. So if there's questions that we have on the Instagram chat or Spotify or Apple or on YouTube, we definitely want to be able to discuss those things, here as well, if we get the chance. We also have our Young Scholars Program that we are planning to launch this year. It is more geared towards middle school to high schoolers, but another E&O associate of mine, Devin Tillman, is working with me to work on the Young Scholars Program, where we're, going into, we're talking to, I'd say, middle schoolers and high schoolers, and talking to them about civil rights and the importance of civil rights. And kind of having that conversation. I feel like definitely it's very important. You kind of hear about it in history classes, but sometimes there's may not be like a chance for engagement or conversation. So I think definitely our education and outreach department is trying to be able to give young people like more of a voice, like Cleveland's goal definitely is. Our big one is our Protecting Civil Rights During Challenging Times Symposium, which is coming up. It is going to be at Bowie State. It's going to be on a Saturday on February 21st. I don't know the time off the top of my head. I believe it's 9 to 3. But it is going to be at Bowie. It's free. We will definitely link the Eventbrite link, in our platforms that you guys can be able to register and come to our symposium. We have a lot of guest speakers planned for that, and we have a lot of vendors that I hear are going to come. A lot of people trying to be at the symposium. So that's our huge event coming up. And then our big one that we've had ever since I've been there, at least, is our gala. That is coming up, our 2026 gala. It's going to be in September 26th? 26, perfect. 26, 2026. Yep. Awesome. And our E&O team is working very hard to put all that together so that we can come with more information. So definitely stay tuned on our Instagram, on our Facebook, and, we'll be definitely talking about it a lot as the podcast keeps running. But our gala is coming up in September of this year.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Marquita. I know you have some other programs you're working on.
Yeah, there's a few extra ones. I want to hint back to the symposium really quick.
Yes.
You talked about guest speakers, just to be specific viewers. We'll have 3 panels.
Okay.
That's amazing. That means a plethora of people for you to hear from, ranging all the way from our sister agencies, legal enforcement, and advocacy. So definitely come out, and free breakfast and lunch.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
We should have led with that.
I know we should
led with
have.
that.
We should have. I just thought of it. I'm like, wait, there's food.
Yes.
I love food. But a few other of the programs that we have coming up. Our MLAP program, which is our Maryland Leadership and Advocacy program. That's geared for our executive senior leaders, mid-tier leaders, as well as emerging leaders. And we also would love to invite our small business owners to apply for it. MLAP will provide an opportunity for leaders to enhance their communication skills, their cultural competencies, their confidence, their what's the word I'm looking for? Decision making. I don't know why that took me a minute. And then just this being the first cohort for our MLAP program, this just gives you that opportunity to be a founder of MLAP, that little like cohort founder. So we encourage you all to apply if you are or you range in any type of leadership position. We've designed the program to fit all leaders, so all is welcome. And then lastly, our training requests. We are constantly all over Maryland, training sister agencies, different other Maryland corporations that reach out to us for training requests. And we invite everybody to go to the website that Gabby mentioned earlier, look for education and outreach, and you'll see our whole catalog of what we do offer. Our trainings are free, so we highly encourage our community to take advantage of it. Whether your staff or team is going through a cultural incident or a conflict, and you need a conflict resolution training, we have a plethora and a variety for anyone, really. And even if we don't have something in our catalog, we still urge you to put in a training request with us. Me and Ramona do our intake. I guess we can call it intake.
Shout out Ramona.
I was about to say shout out to Ramona and Joe
Ramona.
Vern. Yes, they're our 2 top trainers, and they are awesome. I always say they call all the attention to the room. They're bomb.
And then we can't leave out Devin. So let's just go. We gotta touch on the whole team, right?
Yeah,
so we can't leave out Devin.
Wait. our amazing, spectacular supervisor.
Oh,
Hey,
right.
there you go.
Yes.
I mean, we love you, Cleveland,
I get
but
it. I get
yeah,
it.
Our
I get
director of
it.
Candace.
E&O,
I get
Candace
it. Candace
Crenshaw.
Crenshaw.
Yes. Yep.
Yes,
Miss
yes.
Crenshaw.
We are doing it, y'all. So we urge you to just continue to look on our social media
Yes.
platforms, to see what's coming up next. We are, like I said, out all over Maryland,
Cool.
and like Cleveland said, we want to be a household staple,
You know what,
household
guys?
name.
Guess what?
What?
I think we got through our first podcast.
We got through our first
Almost.
podcast.
Almost. We have a little bit left.
Oh, we have a
We
little.
have one last, and you know,
Last
he led.
question?
Yeah, he led to it. We just have that one question for you, Cleveland, to kind of close us out, basically. So with that, we just wanted you to expand on your vision for the agency. How do you see the agency expanding in the future? I know you've kind of said it a few times already,
You
but
have.
I think it's a good closing statement. You know.
I think again it goes back to making our commission a household name, right? It's ensuring that everybody throughout our entire state, whether you are directly or indirectly impacted by discrimination, you know who to call, right? You know how I guess for me growing up, right, it was who you gonna call Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
right? We should create some type of music or something around who you gonna call, and it's the commission, right? Because we want to make sure that as soon as something happens in the community, that folks know that they can contact us, right? And that we are going to show up, we're going to take action, right? And we are going to resolve it. Now, I want to be clear, right? It doesn't mean that every time somebody reaches out to us that we say it was 100% discrimination.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But for me, the resolve is we heard what you said,
Mm-hmm.
right? We investigated it, and we provided some sort of resolution, right? Even if it's a written fine that says, hey, we looked at everything and we didn't find that discrimination occurred, for us, that's still a resolution, right? I think at the end of the day, most people want to be heard, right?
For sure.
And it's important for us to do that. So in order to be a household name, you've got to listen to people, right? In order to figure out what services, what trainings, what events you need to have, you've got to listen to people, right? I think too often folks find themselves in positions of power, and they just kind of sit in their offices and they tell people what they need or what they want, right?
Right.
Our vision for our agency really is to be listeners, better listeners. What does the community need? Well, in order for us to figure that out, we go out into the community and listen to what they need and try to provide them that, right? So for me, our vision really is to take us away out of the office and embed us back into the community where we belong, right?
Right.
So that every corner, every street, every business, every employer, every property owner, they know who the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights is. And it's not from an adversarial relationship, right? I believe that we can be partners, but we want to make sure that we are promoting civil rights in everything that we do, right? So that's what I look as for the vision for the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, right? And I think for me in closing, and we talked about Dr. King, so I think it's only fitting, right, that Dr. King has always said the time is right. The time is always right to do what is right. And that's what we do at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights.
Well, y'all.
We've gotten done our first podcast.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and end it here, but giving a little bit of last bit of information for our viewers, and then we celebrate our first episode. So again, just wanting to reiterate that if you want to file a complaint with our agency, please go to our website at mccr.maryland.gov. We are definitely getting a lot of inquiries, so just look at our website, get some more information if you feel as though...
be patient.
Yes.
But contact us.
Yes, please be patient. We are here. We are listening to you. Our intake department is doing the best they can. Trust me, I can say that for sure. With the intake department, it's small and mighty, but we are here. But yeah, so if you go to our website, or you can give us a call as well at 410-767-8600. I also just want to, reiterate our symposium is coming up. So that is coming February 21st on a Saturday at Bowie State University. And we will add that link to our platforms for people to register if you haven't registered yet. And then on top of that, I think just, we'll be having our podcast episodes where we'll be definitely promoting our gala that's coming up. It's really big. And also, preparing for our 100-year gala next year, too. So we'll definitely be diving into those topics. But I will say with that,
Follow us on
Yeah.
social media.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Follow us on social media.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube,
Yep.
Spotify,
Apple.
Apple.
We all here.
We're here.
Yeah.
We outside. We outside. Yes, our Instagram for sure handle at Maryland MD Civil Rights.
Yep.
Yes, and that I think applies to a lot of the other social media platforms. But we will link all of those in our descriptions as well
Yep.
for people to start subscribing.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Gabby. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Job well done.
Yes. Alrighty.
Until next time.
Yes.